once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin, and I'm here tonight with Pascal. How you doing, Pas?
I'm good, Gav. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, mate. How's your weekend been? Was it a fun weekend? I had a great weekend.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like mine will be very quick, so you can get straight to yours because I had a mum-free weekend. She's gone back now, so it was a lot of sleeping, a little bit of work, and obviously enjoying the football, which we're going to touch on about Arsenal, but also watching the other games as well, which was quite entertaining all round, especially Spurs, which was a fantastic way to wake up in the morning and see them capitulate as per usual. But yeah, good, mate. Very good.
Good stuff. Yeah, I had a Friendsgiving on Saturday, which for everyone outside of the US, you've probably heard of Thanksgiving. Well, Friendsgiving is just when all your buddies get together, basically, and generally have like a party. You eat and drink and all that sort of stuff. And that was Saturday night. And I hate going to these things if we've lost or if it's been a bad. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like I'd be miserable. So the wife was very happy when we won, and she wondered why I was in an extra good mood, and it was because obviously Spurs lost.
Exactly, but the positive about these things, if you do go to them, is that if you drink, you can drink pissed off, you can drink depressed, and you can drink happy. So
that's
you're
true.
Sorted, really.
Yeah, that's true. That's just generally where it ends. So, but it's always better when you're in a good mood to start. I find.
Yeah, I agree. Oh no, actually, I tell a lie. On Friday, I went to a Shabbat. I've never been to that.
Now?
Shabbat, which is Jewish for Sabbath, I believe. That's what so I have one of my clients, he's Jewish, and he's invited me. I'd never been before, so I had no idea what to expect. And he had said to me, don't eat throughout the day. So I thought it was a joke. I thought, oh yeah, very funny, this and that. It's not something you need to do. It's just recommended because there's so much food. So I got there, I had eaten a bit, and it was ridiculous, the amount of food. I'm talking like you try one thing, they give you then rice, and then it goes on to couscous, and then it goes on to a stew, and then it was insane. And then compound that with wine, and I'm telling you, it's looking to burst time. Very good experience, but I will warn anyone who's going to do that, who doesn't know about it, absolutely go starving for 2 days.
So then you have to work that off before you play football next, otherwise you can't move around.
Mate, I probably was thinking, I don't think I ate until the evening of the night after. I was that ridiculously full.
So you're like a snake, really? Like just one meal and it fills you up and you can go for like a week.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a really big appetite. I've lost it, and that was probably not ideal for me. And the thing is, you don't want to be disrespectful, so you keep eating. And then yet you fill your stomach. It's like gluttony. Basically, you're committing gluttony on that day. So,
but for the right reasons, you're doing it for
the right reasons. For the right reasons, yeah. I wouldn't think Kevin Spacey's going to be after me for committing a deadly sin there. But
if Kevin Spacey's after you, I think you've got more to worry about than that. But
yeah.
Swiftly moving
Seven,
on.
I mean, in the context of Seven, nothing else.
Yeah. Swiftly moving on. I mean, it was a fantastic weekend football-wise as well, obviously. So that helped. Saturday morning was one of the funniest games that I think I've ever seen. So I get up and I've got two big dogs, and of a morning it takes me like an hour to get them sorted out. And the time change kind of means they're getting me up at 6 instead of 7 now. So I just finished getting the dogs sorted and everything. I sat down, I put it on, and of course they scored within like 3 minutes. And I'm like, oh God, I don't even want to watch this. So I had half an eye on it, and I was half messing around doing work stuff on my computer and that. And the longer the game went on, the more you're thinking, Jesus Christ, like what have Wolves got to do to score? Well, when they scored, it was fantastic. I never dreamed that they'd get the winner straight after. I mean, that was incredibly Spursy, wasn't it?
Well, I'm a bit surprised, Gav, that you would say that was one of the funniest games you've ever seen, because you obviously have not watched enough Spurs games. If you have watched enough
I'll be honest,
Spurs games,
I don't. Usually.
No, yeah, you obviously. I mean, you can go back to the Chelsea game they just had recently, which was just hilarious with their high line with 9 men. But that was just typical Spurs in what we know them, because, in fact, that game encapsulates what Spurs are. They are going into every single season, whether it's what was that boring manager they had from Wolves? Who was
Nuno Espirito Santo.
Remember they won those 3 games at the beginning of the season. They beat Man City, and everyone was saying, what a fantastic record, what a start. We saw what happened. Conte had that season. The next season, we were going on about the best thing ever. They really are media darlings, though, I have to say. And then,
don't you find that absolutely nuts? Like how the media fawn over them. Like people want to pretend there's a big 6. There's not a big 6. There's 3 gigantic clubs and 3 financially dope clubs. Right? There is no such thing as a big 6. Spurs are not part of the 3 gigantic clubs or the 3 financially dope clubs. They're just like the best of the rest.
Yeah.
But they want to put them in there like they are. And it's like, how can you be part of the big 6 or whatever you want to call it when you don't win anything?
And that's the thing that never is talked about with these articles that big Spurs up. There's always either talking about the tide has turned and, you know, are they finally overtaking Arsenal and so on. But there's never any mention of the fact that this team is one of the most underwhelming clubs, if you talk about success, there is around out of so-called top clubs. I mean, to think, what is it? It's the League Cup when they had Ramos, I think, was that 2008? The FA Cup, when we were barely starting as Arsenal fans, was 91. And that's it. That's all you can remember as we go back to 88. All you can remember Spurs winning. And then as for league titles, I mean, you're going to your fathers to think about that. So it's just odd.
Do you remember, I guess around about 2011, 2012, it started with us, where, in fact, it may even have been before that, the trophy drought, right? When did they really start getting on our backs about it? It might have been 2010 when they really started getting on our backs about it.
Yeah.
But it was this big thing, the trophy drought. They haven't won anything since 2005. You know, went to Champions League final the next year, but haven't won anything since 2005. And that was the countdown, and it was on all the papers. You know, they don't win anything, can't win this. You don't get any of that for Spurs. I guess because they're not really expected to win anything, I suppose, is what it is. But the way the media fawns over them and goes nuts, I mean, the way they're going nuts over Postecoglou, it's crazy. Like, his management in that Chelsea game was absolutely insane. And they went nuts about it. They had 2 players sent off, deservedly so, and they're praising him for not having a go at the ref. It really is nuts to me. And then at Wolves, they just capitulated like they normally do, but the manager comes out and says, mate, so it's all right.
It's a really good point, because the Chelsea game, which I found, you know, even Arteta from the media, we're getting talk of, he's got to win something. He's got to win something big. He's got to do this. He's got to do that. And yet we're talking about one manager of Arsenal's reign, when they've had about, you know, how many we go back until when they won a league title. We're talking generations, right? But yeah, there's no mention of that. Then the second thing is the Ange thing kind of cracks me up, because he talks like the guy next door kind of thing with an Australian accent. But there's no analysis of his tactical plan. The Arsenal, one thing Arteta has done, particularly this season, is we've shut up shop pretty good, even when we're at 10 men, even when, okay, barring Fulham, perhaps you could say, you know, there's been a few games, the odd game here and there where we've kind of lost concentration, but generally he's managed it so much better than previous times where we need to shut up the game. We're on 10 men, or we just want to play this game out. He's done that. We're managing that so much better. City was a prime example. We went 1-0 up. We shut the game down. No stupid errors. and shows none of that. It's kind of a bit like what Wenger was towards the latter part. There was just only one way of playing. There was never any plan to shut a game up. And I just don't think he's called out about it. He's not, there's no talk of it. It's just what we got.
He's come from Celtic as well. He's come from Celtic, and he's, at Celtic, you don't ever have to shut up shop, right? Except in Europe, where they get trounced every game anyway. But you don't have to shut up shop. In the Premier League, it's a little bit different. There was he got a little bit of a false sense of security, I think, because they've literally played the bottom five, right? So I think he got to play Luton and Burnley and Sheffield United all early doors. And I think that gave him a little bit of bravado that maybe wasn't earned. And I think what you're seeing now is it's just catching up to them. And I think their fixtures turn a little bit and then go back again. But I think they just got a very, very good run of games to get started. But, RIP Tottenham's title challenge.
Yeah, but I think what's coming to fruition then is what I'd mentioned. I think you've mentioned, but the squad is just, if Eric Dyer is your saviour, and then Ben Davies and players like that, you're in trouble in terms of defence. And you could see when Maddison's out of that team, it's just nothing. It's a shadow of what they can do. I think I just feel it's just one of these situations where it was a low bar to come in.
Yes.
Anyway, wasn't it? I mean, what are you talking about? Conte's second season was atrocious. It's a low bar. You just play relatively good football, and suddenly the media's fawning over it. So, but we'll talk more about it later, I'm sure. But a 3-horse race, it's as simple as that for me. I think it's always been like that, and I think that's what we had all predicted at the beginning of the season as well.
Yeah, for sure. And but it was good to see them lose, though. I mean, it never feels nice being below them in the table, even if you know that it's a bit false and that it is going to turn. It's still nice to get it over and done with sooner rather than later. And then we play with the 3 p.m. kickoff in the UK. Unusual, but I do like a Saturday 3 p.m. game. Paz, Peacock. You watched on Peacock in the US, right?
You're talking about the camera angle.
What the fuck was that camera angle in the first half? I said to you, I felt like I was watching someone play FIFA.
It was career mode. Is that what you said?
Career. It felt like career mode on FIFA.
It did, and it was very odd, and it was only for the first half. So it was like,
you couldn't tell the difference between, normally you can tell when they switch to a replay. Like even if you can tell the camera's angles are different and all that.
Yeah.
But the way they were in that first half, I couldn't tell the difference between a replay and the game. It was a crazy camera angle that they had, and it kind of, I could see if you were someone that got motion sickness, I reckon it would have made you feel sick.
It was really strange, and like the far side, I think it was who was playing right back, Tomiyasu. You couldn't even see him because it was so close to the left side. The right side, you didn't even see hardly what was going on. It was really, really odd.
I like the bit when it went all wobbly.
It was a glitch.
I like the bit where it went all wobbly when it looked like someone was filming it on their phone.
It looked like one of those homemade. Do you remember those pirate videos that they used to take inside the movie theater?
Yeah, the cam videos. Yes,
it reminded me of that. But I think it was a mistake because they changed in the second half. They must have been.
Well, I'm taking credit for that because I tweeted at them. So I'm taking credit from changing that. So everybody can thank me for that. But that was, I said at the time, like, it's almost unwatchable. It was really, I was actually thinking about going to Twitter and seeing if I could find a different feed because it was bad. So bad. I couldn't.
It was terrible. It was terrible. But you are known for your tweets in rage at certain companies because I always remember the infamous Ashley Holmes. I think it was.
Oh yes, yes, Ashley Holmes with my dining room.
You really went on a rant.
Oh yeah, they took me. It took me 2 years to get a damn dining room table, and they delivered my chairs. Right, they delivered me. I don't know how many chairs we've got, 10, 12, whatever it is. But they were like $500 pop, right? So they delivered the chairs. So now I'm stuck because we've accepted delivery of the chairs. So you can't give the chairs back. The table matches the chairs. So now I've got this fucking table that I've paid X amount of money for and it don't get delivered for nearly 2 years. So,
Did they give you
yes.
a refund?
No, I had to wait for the table. Took nearly 2 years to get a dining room table.
Crazy.
Yeah, nuts. But yes, I did go off on a Twitter rant on them as well.
You did.
I
They're
will.
seldom, but they do happen.
I will hit you on Twitter if I feel like you deserve it.
Yes,
I'm the sort of person that I block.
You block the what? You block.
If I was someone else, I would block me.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So the game itself, Paz, it was nice to see Zinchenko back. Well, it was nice for me to see Zinchenko back because obviously I'm a Zinchenko stan. But I thought
it was
Zinchenko
excellent.
should have come back in one way or another. And so we found out, I think Ben White's been off for a while, and I think now we kind of know why. He's clearly been carrying this knock. And I think the team that he put out was the team that I would have put out regardless of Ben White's injury. Do you know what I mean? I think it was time for Ben White to sit for a bit and bring Tomiyasu in. And like you said, I thought Zinchenko was absolutely superb.
Oh, he was brilliant. I mean, I know I know you're not someone who does this, but I think he generally can get a bit of stick for his defensive qualities. I thought not only was he fantastic defensively, but he was instrumental in that midfield. Some of the touches were sublime, absolutely brilliant to watch. And it kind of maybe fuels the idea of him perhaps as an alternative to the 8, which and we know he plays in the 10 as well for Ukraine, because he slots in so easily in that midfield and his ball distribution is wonderful and his link up play. So, if Tomiyasu is getting the left back roles on occasions, I wouldn't mind seeing Zinchenko, like you said, at least in the team, because I think what he offered on that in that game was pretty special.
I think without Ødegaard, Zinchenko simply has to play. I think he has to play. Like if you look at pure footballers, Saka obviously is, our most effective player. Every goal comes through in one way or another. But if you look at footballers for actual quality on the ball and the touches and stuff, Zinchenko is the closest thing to Ødegaard that we have.
Yeah.
And I think if Ødegaard isn't playing, I mean, I'd play Zinchenko every week anyway. But if Ødegaard isn't playing, I think you have to play Zinchenko.
No, I 100% agree with that, because I think what we're missing with Ødegaard is, as what's pretty obvious, is someone to basically pick open a pass and open up the play, someone in and around the penalty box to, there was a cup, many, like you mentioned in the game against Sevilla, where Martinelli was doing that run down to the byline, but there was just no one on the edge of the box or no one around to convert the ball, take a shot or put in the back of the net. And that's something that Ødegaard does so frequently. I think Zinchenko is the closest person to that. Also, as you can see, we do miss a bit of creativity in that midfield when Ødegaard is not there. And Havertz, as we've already noticed, is not really that player. So I think Zinchenko, I feel in that, particularly that game, was fundamental to our play and fundamental to our playmaking.
And it was good to see Trossard on the score sheet again.
Yeah.
Because he again, I don't think he's had a great start to the season, but the last couple of games playing up front in place of Eddie, I think he's been absolutely superb. And I think sometimes when we've said before, right, is that we like Eddie, but you can't play him too many games in a row because it starts to show. And I think you can say the same thing about Trossard, in that Trossard up front, it's almost like they're a change of pace for each other. Do you know what I mean? In 3 or 4 games, hopefully he won't have to play there that long because hopefully Jesus will be back. But in 3 or 4 games, it will be Trossard that's looking stout up there. Not for any fault of his own, but teams just adjust. And I do think that's kind of where we're at. And Trossard is really filling in well there at the minute. It was a very, very well taken goal, really very brave. I thought he was done. I was shocked to see him come out for the start of the second half.
Yeah, and I if we think back to when we got him, and I know we've talked about this before, and you think what we were potentially getting, and watching that player in Modric come on for Chelsea yesterday and offer absolutely nothing, and think what Trossard's return has been since we've got him, it's pretty incredible, really, the contrast and also the value for money that we got for this player. Yes, I agree with you. I think it's not maybe someone that you want to see playing 3-4 games in a row, because he does seem to drift out of games, and he's maybe not as consistent, but he has been really important to us in terms of offering that option outside of Jesus, because he's so versatile and scores goals. And I thought it was extremely brave of him to go in there and in the place at the right time, very similar to Sevilla, in that he was there ready for the ball and put it in the back of the net. And I've been really impressed with him. I like him as a player. I like him as an option for us. I was really pleased with his outlay.
Yeah, and don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that Trossard's not a good player. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be part of this squad. I think he's an incredibly important part of this squad. Having him as the first man up in about 3 or 4 positions, I think he's a godsend. You need that change of pace sometimes. When it's not your first choice, you need that change of pace sometimes. And I think Trossard really has given us a little bit of a kick that we needed, because Eddie had got to the point where I think he was looking a bit stale and jaded. So that was I think that was an important part of this. Kai Havertz pass, I thought he was fine again. His early header was a little bit embarrassing, I would say. The one when he almost made no contact with the header. The header over from the corner.
I missed that.
It was on the back post, and he almost made no contact with it whatsoever.
Yeah.
The header from the corner that he headed over was a little bit unlucky. He'd done well to get himself in a position, and it was a good header. It was just too high. But it's another game where he's been fine, absolutely fine, but just not really imposed himself on a game. I was surprised to see him come off on the hour, though. Were you surprised to see his number go up?
I was, actually. I thought I didn't think he was horrendous at all. Like you said, I think he was pretty okay. I do worry, though, because, what is it? Burnley, atrocious team. Sheffield United, atrocious team. Sevilla, atrocious team. And if you can't really shine in those type of games, it does worry me when we play the bigger teams, because he came on as a sub against City, was pretty good, but he played in the number 9. He came on against Chelsea, I think, but I don't remember seeing much of him in that game. I feel the game passes him by a lot, and it seems that when you see certain players that get the ball, Odegaard primarily, it's difficult to compare him with Odegaard, but his quick mind of thought is very, he'll turn, he'll make a turn, he'll pass quickly. Havertz always seems like he's playing in slow motion. So I don't think I was surprised that he went off at 58 minutes, because we were winning at that time and it didn't seem like he was playing overly bad. But at the same time, it's still that moment where you think to yourself, this is a hefty amount we play for this guy, and the guy we sold is smashing it up in the Bundesliga.
And I think we all think that he basically needs a confidence boost. And one of the reasons I was surprised to see his number go up was simply because you felt the last 20 minutes of this game, 30 minutes of this game, might be a chance for him to get himself on a score sheet, do something to really boost him. So I was a bit surprised. But the man who came on, Fabio Vieira, he didn't cover himself in glory. Yeah,
very, very frustrating. You've got to think to yourself, I can get it if we're losing 3-1, but why would you be doing that when we're winning and the game's more or less done? It's just strange. Maybe it's
I'm glad we had that third goal, though, Pass. I'm glad it wasn't too.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think the third goal was really Zinchenko's Daniel LaRusso kick was I think pivotal for us in it. And at the same time, even if we were 2-1, yes, we would be worried and stuff. But I really didn't worry about Burnley at all. I think we've been very fortunate to have been playing with injuries with teams like Sheffield United, Sevilla, and Burnley. It's been very fortunate for us, because really appalling teams. It's like, so, I don't know why Vieira did that. Really don't.
No, and I mean, there's no arguments, right? It's a straight
No,
red.
no,
There's
it's a red.
absolutely
It was a stupid.
Yeah, no
Move.
question about it. Yeah, I mean, he's not, you're not exactly going to mistake him for Peter Story. So
No.
I don't think he's going to take someone's knee out. It was just, it looked like an awkward challenge almost. I don't know what his foot was doing up there, but yeah, no qualms about it. He's going to get a 3-game ban. It's deserved. But it's a 3-game ban at a time when we could really do without it because there's no guarantee that Ødegaard's going to be back. We know that Partey is not going to be back. It's another option in midfield that we've just had taken away for 3 games.
And ESR too. We don't even know what's going on there. So, that is frustrating. I mean, I think we've got Brentford. Obviously, he would be available for Lens. Brentford, and then Liverpool is
no, Liverpool's after that. We've got a couple of games. I think we've got Luton away. So it goes
Brentford.
It goes Brentford away, then Lens at home, then Wolves at home, Luton away, Villa away.
Okay,
so he will miss Brentford, Wolves, and Luton, and he'll be back for Villa away.
Wolves is at home, did you say?
Wolves is at home, yeah. So Brentford away, Wolves at home, Luton away. So they're not games that you're necessarily worried about. Well, I mean, it's Fabio Vieira, so he doesn't start anyway. So you're not worried about that. The thing is, we've just got a lot of injuries at the minute, and it's another option that's been taken away, and it's been taken away by his own stupidity. And I imagine Arteta is going to be furious.
Mm. Well, he didn't even look at him when he walked off, which says something. Usually a manager, someone pats him on the back or says something. He didn't even respond to him. So I think he was furious about it. I mean, again, I think we might have got a little bit lucky with that one in the games that he misses. It's not the most. Yeah, I think Brentford away, potentially, that's a difficult one.
I think it's numbers, though, mate. That's the problem.
It is.
We're now at the point where, hopefully we'll come back after the international break. Ødegaard will be back and it'll be fine because you can put Havertz on the bench or Jorginho can drop to the bench. So we've got something. But as it stands right now, if we come back and there's no improvement in that injury thing, we're looking at Mo Elneny as the first man up.
Well, I would probably then look to Zinchenko, to be honest, if that's the case, because, if Tomiyasu's available, I would look to Zinchenko moving into that midfield. And I think that would be, for me, the inevitable choice because we have to have that creativity from somewhere. And in away games, I know he seems to opt for Tomiyasu because of his solidness defensively. Then use Tomiyasu, but you can have Zinchenko in midfield. That's probably what I would think of. But the good news is Norway have now used common sense as opposed to Brazil and just said Ødegaard is out. So hopefully that 2-week rest does him good and he's back to play. But it is concerning, these injuries, but it seems to be prevalent throughout the league, to be honest.
It does. There's a lot of injuries about at the minute. Everybody seems to have injury problems now.
Well, it's what we talked about could happen with these long injury time. It's a possibility. So I'm not saying that. I think in Spurs' case, it was two stupid red cards that's causing. But then you got Van der Ven, I think, who's gone off with a quite serious
hamstring. Yeah, he's hamstring.
Yeah, Maddison, Neto pulled his hamstring for Wolves. I think there's been quite a few others, hasn't there, in terms of hamstring injuries?
Yeah, and it's a lot of muscle stuff. And it's interesting. I don't know Mickey Van der Ven's injury history, but I know James Maddison has got a pretty lengthy injury
quite suspicious,
history with
it
muscles.
Is quite. You're right.
Obviously, our Thomas Partey, we know what the injury history is there. So I don't know. I don't know if it's players that are susceptible are just playing more and it's causing more issues. I'm not really sure what it is. I mean, I imagine with when it comes to Spurs, they're kind of and Liverpool are the same as this. They don't really have any depth. So the players that they rely on, like us last season, the players they rely on are literally playing all the time because the manager doesn't trust any of the rotational pieces. So they're playing all the time and you are going to get these injuries when that's the case.
Yeah. I just hope it clears up a bit for us because that Liverpool game, I know we've got many games before. Villa away, that's another one.
It's going to be a tough game, that.
Yeah, as much as Unai Emery, we have our thoughts on him. They have been impressive at home.
Well, he's a good manager he's a good underdog manager, right? Like that was our problem with him for us, is that he tried to play like the underdog, and you're going, we're Arsenal and that's Watford. What are you doing? You know, that was the problem for us. He's a very good underdog manager. He was just at the wrong club with us, like he was at PSG. And I think that's it.
Perhaps also at Villa, he's been given more reign with the transfers. He's been given more.
I think so. I think he's been given a lot more freedom than he would have had at ours. That's the difference between a club like that and a club that wants to be where we're trying to be. Yeah. That's the difference. But the Brazil thing, Pas, where they basically are refusing to accept our word on Jesus.
It's suspicion, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently it stems from Martinelli last time when he was injured and we pulled him out of the squad. They took our word for it, didn't name him, and then we played him before he went. But this is a situation where Jesus hasn't even trained, let alone played. And of course, Martinelli also went off with a hamstring at the weekend, which hopefully wasn't too serious. But Jesus flying 12 hours to go get looked at by a doctor when he hasn't trained in weeks, coming off of knee surgery. To me, it's just insanity to me. But this is what the international federations can do and what the international federations will do.
It's also, I think it's compounded by the fact that Brazil are lying third in the qualifying group.
And it's Colombia and Argentina, right?
And it's Colombia and Argentina. Argentina actually is the massive one, obviously. So there's obviously a desperation on their part.
But you would think, right, we've obviously got some of the best medical and training facilities in the world. You would think they could send their doctor over to us and let him... I mean, Jesus Christ, they've played home games at the Emirates before. Send your doctor over, let him have a look at him at Colney. Why is he flying away to Brazil? I mean, maybe Jesus would go back to Brazil anyway during this time. Do you know what I mean? Like it's 2 weeks without a game. Maybe he'd go back and see his sister or his mum or whatever. Maybe he would. Maybe this is something about nothing, something that we shouldn't really care about. It just seems
it could be because I'm just having ideas on what it could be, but it could be that if he's there and they deem him fit enough, he's actually there ready so he can train. Therefore, you don't have I agree with you, though. I think it's just ridiculous, but that could be their thought process. The fact is, though, Richarlison has done us no favors by being injured. It's incredible he's ahead of Jesus anyway, but he's done us a favor when he is available because he seems to pick him ahead. Yeah. So this is a big problem for us.
Yeah, and Neymar's out as well, isn't he? So I think if they had Richarlison and Neymar, this might be a different conversation.
I think so.
But they don't, and they need to win. So I guess, I get it. It's just frustrating. We look at everything through the Arsenal lens, right? Whereas, obviously, Brazil, they don't give a fuck about us. They're looking at it through their lens.
It's just hard with Jesus because he never seems to get a run of games. And
he's so important to us, too.
He's so important to us, and we've already had him miss a big portion of the season because of the World Cup with Brazil. So, it's already a difficult, and he's so, like you said, he's so important. He's akin to Odegaard in some respects in creating play, in making play, in holding the ball. So I hope if things come good of this because we really will need him for those big trips away from home, especially Anfield and Villa Park.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, mate, let's leave the first half there. We'll come back in the second half and we'll touch on some of the other stuff from around the league and how it affects us. So I'll see you back here in a minute.
Cheers.
Hey guys, just a couple of quick halftime messages for you. Firstly, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us reach a wider audience, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Secondly, we're on all the social media platforms as the NN Pod. We're really trying to build a strong Gooner community. So next time you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, look us up, give us a like or a follow, send us a message, interact with other listeners, or just have a look around. Thanks for listening from myself, Paz and Juz. We really appreciate it. Welcome back into the Non-Negotiables podcast. This is part 2. Pas, we have developed a really good habit over the last few months of going into these international breaks on a high, right? We beat Man United going into the international break. I believe, did we beat City going into the last international break? I think it was. I think it was City.
Was it? Yeah, I remember Man United.
Yeah, I believe it was City. We definitely went in off the back of a win. Maybe it wasn't City. Maybe it was the game after. But it was off the back of a win, and now we're going in off the back of a win here. A win that we really needed after the ridiculous loss at Newcastle. But it's good going into these breaks with the feel-good factor around the club, right? Like, there was times when these breaks were absolutely torture. And don't get me wrong, I don't ever want to see these breaks. I don't like these breaks in season. But at least going in off the back of a win, you feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we spoke about this, I know particularly after the Man United game where and the last one, when it actually is coming at a pretty good time. As much as I can't stand the international break, I've made that very clear. I find it the most useless part of, I find it punishment. It's like punishment that you need to somehow undertake to enjoy the Premier League. You've got to put up with these international breaks. But at the same time, from an Arsenal perspective, I think it's come at a good time again because we have injuries.
Yeah.
We just won important games, albeit against pretty inferior opposition, but we still won Sevilla and Burnley, putting us right in the mix with 2 big tournaments. And then we've got players who are coming back, which are hoping these 2 weeks will help in them coming back. So coming out with the last game of victory also helps a lot. So, yeah, it is a good position to be in, especially with this international break coming up. So I'm pleased with how and I think I'd mentioned it before. If we can get past Sevilla, if we can get past Burnley, I'll be pleased with that. By the way, mentioning the team that we lost to Newcastle, that was another result I was pleased to see over the weekend. That also added to my enjoyment.
Yeah, I was pleased when they lost to Dortmund in the week as well. I thought that.
Yeah,
I've got to be. The thing is, I don't view Newcastle as a threat to us per se.
No,
right? I don't think they're in the same league as us. They're not going to be challenging for the top 3. They might be challenging 4th with Tottenham and United and Brighton and Villa, and that's where they are. But I just cannot stand them. I can't stand them as a club. I can't stand them as a fan base. I can't stand what they are now. I mean, did you see the mug arguing with Trippier after the game? Did you see this?
I did. Yeah, I did. And I'm like, does that supporter know what this team has been for the last 20 odd years? Since Keegan?
60 odd years. When was the last time they won a trophy?
Well, I mean, at least with Keegan, they were challenging of some sort and they played some nice football. So but I get from a trophy perspective, yeah, was 60 years or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. I couldn't believe that when I saw them argue, and they're such a dislikable team. Do you know what I mean? Like
they really are. I'm starting to dislike.
Dislike Callum
Eddie
Wilson.
Howe.
I can't stand Callum Wilson.
Yeah, I think I burn another one.
Joe Linton. Like you can just go on and basically name their entire squad.
They're another team that the media fawn over. This.
Yeah, it's the whole.
The
they're a massive club, and they're a massive club, and they've got this great support and that. And I've been up there a few times, and that stadium is shit. Like, especially if you're an away fan, you're stuck up in the heavens. You can't see anything. It's almost as bad as West Ham's ground.
Which one, the Upton Park or the one they have?
No, the Council House.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also, it's just like they also want to get, the passion of the Geordies and their fan base is this and that and whatever. And I just think to myself, it's like so overblown who they are and what they represent and everything. It's a team that I'm going to start really disliking. I already dislike, but I'm going to dislike more and more.
And I find Eddie Howe detestable as well. Like, I really cannot stand Eddie Howe. So, I mean, to me, they're a club I just can't stand. So, yeah, I was happy. I was happy with that. It was generally good. The only result that didn't go our way was the Liverpool result, and they were always going to beat Brentford at home. And you were saying in the first half that you think this is a three-horse title race. I agree, and I said that pre-season in the prediction part.
Yeah, I think we both did.
This was a three-way. This was a three-way fight. And I think you're seeing that, and I think that is what it's going to be. I think it is going to be tight between the three of us. And Liverpool don't have the Champions League. That's going to be a little bit of a little bit of a boon for them, that they don't have to worry about that, because they're not going to take the Europa League seriously until they get into the latter stages. So, and being basically nailed on for top four, which I think they will be, they can relax a little bit further into the Europa League. When we were in it, we were trying to use it as a vehicle to get back into the Champions League. I don't think that's going to be the case for them. I think they're going to be solidly in the top four, so they can kind of, the first knockout round, whatever, they can probably still go weaker in that, because if they do get knocked out, it's not that big a deal.
I think in their case, they're going to be like us, where if they finish top, they actually avoid the first knockout.
That's right. They go straight into the round of 16.
Correct. But we don't have to worry anyway about the Champions League. If we pass Lens and finish top, we will hopefully Arteta sees some sense and rest his entire team for that
PSV.
Non-game, against PSV. And then you think about it, it's the end of February where the Champions League starts again. So, or middle of February. I think by that time, they've already played that Europa game. So really, we'd probably be on par with Liverpool in terms of importance of games and games coming up. And also, I think they've got the League Cup. The League
Did they
Cup
go through? I've not even looked at who's...
they went through. They're probably one of the favourites now left, because I think City are out, United are out.
Oh yeah, they will be the favourites. Us and City are out, so they've got to be clear favourites.
So they will definitely be playing, I believe, with probably a stronger team. So I think Liverpool still will have some games to deal with. And what I notice about Liverpool, where we're better than them, attack wise, maybe that's debatable. It's more of I would say it's a lot more of a debate. But I think defensively they are pretty bad.
Structurally, I think structurally we're better defensive. They've got a miles better goalkeeper than us, but I think when you look at the team, the way the team's structured, I think we're a lot better than them in that respect. I think we can control games a lot better than them.
Yeah. So I listen. It's going to be a great game up at Anfield. We know what we're in for. We've got a terrible record there, even though we drew last season.
Well, that was part of the terrible record, though, right? We were 2 up in half an hour.
Yeah, and really, yes, it's debatable to say whether or not we deserve to actually get a draw, because they were all over us in that second half. In fact, if it wasn't for some of Ramsdale's heroics, we could have lost that 3-2. I think it's going to be, and I think City are leaky. I mean, Chelsea, come on, 4 goals. They were really leaky at the back.
It's mad. And that game, I mean, I've said before, like, I don't watch Man City games. They make me angry. So I just don't watch them. And I didn't watch this game either. I've seen some of the bits on, I've seen some little clips since. The penalty that Haaland got is outrageous. You know what? The penalty that Haaland got is exactly the same as the Burnley goal on Saturday. You know, where Tomiyasu had the guy's shirt, the guy had Tomiyasu's shirt, and eventually the guy wins out. And that's not a foul. Never in a million years is that a foul. That is absolutely play on. But the Haaland penalty was exactly the same as that, and he got a penalty for it. And that's maddening. I
think my only argument with the Haaland one was, okay, I think the initial was basically tit for tat. They were fouling each other, basically. However, for Cucurella to not get goal side, they let him... So Haaland got ahead of him and then wrapped his arm around and kind of... let's be honest, Haaland's about, 6'10", and weighs about 300 pounds. He's not going down from that, is he? No. But it's still stupid defending, where he's let him go goal side.
He's stupid defending, but my point there is that it's one of them where you both play on. You do not give a penalty for that. It's an outrageous decision to give a penalty.
I agree. I mean, who was it? It was actually an on-field decision, right? I think it was Oliver who gave it on to City, I believe.
Honestly, I don't know if it was a VAR or if
it was Oliver. I think Oliver gave it as a penalty. So,
but I can see why you would give that. But then looking at the replay, you have to go, well, they're both tugging each other at the start of this. Do you know what I mean? True. And that's it. So I saw that one. I saw the Akanji header that was abysmal defending from Chelsea. I tell you, Reece James, he might be able to go forward, but he cannot defend.
Which is Trent Alexander, isn't it? It's the same.
Yeah,
same with Trent.
He cannot defend. And then and that's about all I saw of it really, because like I said, I don't watch Man City games.
Well, I think I think Ruben Diaz is a shadow of the player that we saw 2 years ago. I don't think he's doing himself any favours. I think actually, to be honest, John Stones is a better defender than him. But I think Akanji he's a useful player, but he's not a superb defender. Walker,
no, he got massively overhyped last year, didn't he, Akanji? Just because they only paid 15 million for him, where they usually pay 80 million for everybody. Yeah, he got massively overhyped because of that. And I don't think he's all that. He's fine. I mean, he's not a bad player, but I don't think he's a world-class talent or anything like that.
Yeah, I think he's. I feel there's goals to be taken. I think we have. As a defensive unit, we have obviously conceded some stupid goals, but I think we look a lot more cohesive than those two teams when it comes to defensively. Offense, and maybe you can say upper part of the midfield or 8 upwards, is we're there's going to be a lot of I don't think we've figured that out yet, Pas.
No. I think it's basically what it is. I think we're trying to figure out exactly what we are. We've almost got a new identity this season. Like this season, this team is completely different to last year's team going forward. Completely different. They're not even in the same realms. And I think what we haven't done yet is figure it out. Last year we had and let's be fair, I think we got found out a bit at the end of last season. I really do. I know we conceded some stupid goals, but I think we got found out a bit the way we were playing. And I think these adjustments that have been made are necessary, and we just haven't really figured it out yet. And we also haven't been able to put out our best team. You know, Jesus has missed most of the season. I don't think Rice was bought to play where he's playing. He's just playing there because it hasn't worked out with Havertz in that 8. And of course, Ødegaard is now out injured. Jorginho's playing every game, which was never the plan. So I think it's one of them where there's a mixture of we haven't been able to put our best team out, and we don't really know exactly how this is going to work yet. But because we haven't been able to put everyone out on the field together, we've not really had a chance to figure it out.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I saw some. I think Justin posted it about Timber, where his recovery is looking really good.
They're talking that maybe January or February we might see him back.
If that was to happen, and I even had said if we could get him by March for the Champions League and for the kind of last straight of the season, I think that would be absolutely amazing, because I think he's a player that we can really utilize as well quite effectively as within our squad defensively. But I agree with you. We've not really been able to see Rice play in his best position enough. And unfortunately, it's just because the players around him are not fit or they're injured. There's always. And
I also think, and I've said this a few times, that it looks to me like we're not quite as fit as we could be. I don't think we're in top form. Fitness-wise, and I think that might be a consequence of design rather than anything else, because we peaked way too early last year. I mean, clearly we peaked too early, and I think that Arteta has learnt from that. That would have hurt everybody last season. That collapse at the end, that would be you've already seen from the Amazon documentary how it hurt them the year before when we finished 5th. And I think a lot of everything that was done really has been done to prevent that happening again. And I think we may be looking at trying to peak later, which I'm happy with where we're at the minute. Right, we're 1 point off of City right now. I'm happy with where we're at the minute, as long as we can kick on from here. And I really think that we've got a real good chance of doing that.
Yeah, I think there's a maturity about our team. I know it sounds a little bit cliche, but there is a maturity. There's a season that they've had now where they were close. We could say probably had a hand on the trophy. I think this season we've added in that extra experience in Rice, someone who has added, I mean, really it's difficult to explain it in words of what he's brought to that midfield, but he's definitely improved us. Unfortunately, we've lost Xhaka, who was, a massive part of our season last year. But if you look at it in terms of where we're at, we our debut in the Champions League after many years, looks like we're going to finish top. We're lying right in the mix in the top three. We've beaten Man City at home, which was something we did not do last season at all. We didn't beat them in any competition. We've the Spurs was a blip, I feel, but then we've beaten Man United at home. We've Newcastle we lost to, but I really feel we were hard done by in that game. But we've been pretty consistent. So to lie where we are with the points that we have, to be challenging in the Champions League, to have a defensive solidity, which we haven't seen for a while. I think we had a bit of it last season, but it looks so much more robust. And I think we're seeing out games a lot better. I mentioned that before than what we had seen previously. So yes, there's a lot more we can improve, but wouldn't you rather be in the position we're in with things to improve than maybe what we were last year, where we looked like we peaked a bit too early? So I'd rather be in this position, knowing that there are areas that we can improve on, there's things to do, but still be in a strong position. I'm content with where we are. I'm content with what we're doing, but I do feel there is definitely room to improve.
I feel the same way. January has the transfer window. Do you envisage just doing anything in January? I think, there's been a lot of conjecture about, do you keep Partey? Do you sell Partey? First of all, I don't think you can sell Partey. I don't think there's going to be any offers for Thomas Partey, who will be going to the African nations at the end of January. I don't think you can sell him. I don't think you've got any choice at all but to keep him at the very least until the summer and just hope that when he comes back from AFCON, he can actually contribute something. I just don't see any other option there. Yeah,
I agree. I don't see the point. I mean, when I say sell him ASAP, I'm more out of frustration whenever I see another Partey injury.
I think that's where we're all at with him. That's where we're all at with him.
Yeah, and another calf injury again. It's just been, I don't want to blame the guy, but it's just since the day we bought him, he's been a nightmare.
I think that Thomas Partey is one of our 5 worst signings of all time. I honestly do. He's a great footballer.
In the Premier League or or since you've been a fan?
Of all time. Since I've been watching Arsenal, I think he is one of the 5 worst signings. Not as in, what, you think he's worse than Igor Stepanovs? No, I don't think he's worse as a player than Stepanovs is. But we've bought this player in. We've paid 50 million in cash, all up front for him, because that's what you have to do to trigger the release clause in. He came in, he was terrible the first year. He was awful. He was trying to be Zidane. He was awful. We eventually worked out this single pivot and he was outstanding. Then he's injured. Then he comes back in, he's outstanding, then he gets injured. Then he comes back in, slight loss of form, then he gets injured. And this has been the case from the very start. When you look at what we've paid, the expectations and the fact that we've built teams around him that have just collapsed because he's picked up yet another injury, I think he's one of our 5 worst signings that I've ever seen.
And that's a very strong case put forward. He's an highly frustrating player. And I feel that one of the biggest problems we would have is I don't understand this Douglas Luiz rumours. I mean, we had an opportunity to get him when he was barely with a contract. Why are we now going to pay more money for someone who's just signed a new one?
I don't think that's what we need either. I don't think what we should be looking for is a 6, because I think that's where Rice needs to go. I think what we need is an 8 that can play there so Rice can move back. Personally, that is where I think. I don't think a 6 is what we should be looking for. I think we need to be looking for someone who plays a bit further forward. Basically, what we hoped Kai Havertz was going to be. And I think you have to just look and say, I mean, Arteta's going to want to give him more time, and that's absolutely fine. And when you've paid 65 million for someone, you have to give him a bit of time. But the early signs are that he's not going to be the answer there. So I think that is the position where we need to be looking at.
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't think it's worked, the number 8 for Havertz, and I don't think it will work. But the honest truth, and yeah, Rice is nailed on the 6. He's very rarely injured. Touch wood. I think Jorginho, as much as I know you're definitely less of a fan than I am. I'm not a big fan of these ex-Chelsea players, but I do feel he has proved to be pretty useful if you consider what the other option would be. El Neni. I like El Neni, but I think Jorginho picks a pass much better than El Neni. El Neni's very much sideways player. So I think Jorginho has proved to be pretty useful because of Partey's absence. So yeah, I would say an 8. I think the attack, I know you're not a big fan of this idea of Tony because of where it might alter our play. I think with Tony, for me, it's on price tag more than anything.
Paz, though? I think we need someone. I just think we need someone better than that, because I think what we need to do at this point, Jesus is not reliable, right? Jesus, we are entering the Thomas Partey zone here with Jesus. We're not there yet, but we are getting towards it, where we have not been able to rely on him properly. And I think what we need to be looking to do is we need to be looking to, I don't want to see someone come in to back up Jesus. I think that would be a terrible move. And I don't want to see a change of pace off the bench option. I think what we need to do is find someone to start in front of Jesus. And that is a tall order, because finding someone better than Gabriel Jesus is not easy. But I said to you, when we signed him, we were going to be needing to look to upgrade him. And I think that's exactly where we are. We need an upgrade on Jesus, and Jesus needs to be the man that can fill in all these positions. Jesus basically needs to become Trossard.
But can't you see Tony, though, doing that? Because
no, I can't. I don't think Tony's any better than Eddie Nketiah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. And I don't think there are no numbers that say he is, except he jumps. His non-penalty goals are not that much better than Nketiah's. There's nothing about him that says he's better than Nketiah, and he's 28.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that he would offer us. I think his hold-up play is decent. I know he plays in a more direct team.
But how often, Paz, do we have a chance to use hold-up play? Do you know what I mean? Like, teams bunker in deep against us. We're not looking to play long balls and hit teams on the break. We don't get the chance to do that. And when we do, by the way, Gabriel Jesus, he's fantastic at it, like you saw with Martinelli's goal in Sevilla.
Yeah. I see that. And I think what holds me back with Tony is 28 and what they're asking for. I think what they're asking for is just too much.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
The striker pool is a real problem at the moment. Look what Man United play for that. The jury's out. He could become very prolific, but so far you're not really seeing a 70 million, 75 million player. So it just shows you how small the pool is for good strikers.
It is. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean,
to get someone better than Jesus is 100 million.
Yeah,
easily.
I mean, you've got the guy. It's the guy at Feyenoord, right? Is he Mexican? The guy at Feyenoord, Jimenez.
Oh yeah,
and Santiago Jimenez, is it?
I've forgotten, but I know who you're talking about.
So you've got someone like that who you're buying, and you're hoping is basically Luis Suarez, right? That's what you're hoping for when you sign him, except maybe without the racism and the bites. But that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping you sign someone that you can get for around 40 million, 45 million, and he becomes that world-class player. I don't see any way that we can buy the finished article, right? I mean, what are your options? Kylian Mbappe next summer? Is that your option? Is that where you want to?
And the guy was the guy I never pronounced the name right. The Napoli guy, Nigerian.
Osimhen.
Osimhen, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know that Osimhen is an upgrade on Jesus either. I'm not completely.
And then there's that Vlahovic is available again.
Yeah, Vlahovic, that cunt can go fuck himself. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know where we turn, but I think we need to, because we can. I think if Jesus is out for 2 or 3 months, I think we're screwed.
Well, he has been. He was last season.
Yeah.
He was out. What was he out for? A month and a half this season? At the beginning of the season?
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, yeah.
I mean, he's easily 3 months in total this season already. Mm-hmm. He was out definitely a good period last season. So that's what we're talking about. And
Yeah.
and he wasn't like Zinchenko. He wasn't known to be he was known to be injury prone at Man City. He did have quite a few injuries, the same as Zinchenko. In fact, Jesus, I think practically a season out with I can't believe it was an ACL, but it was a ligament injury or tendon injury. So it's the way he plays as well. Both of them are very tricky players. They play on the edge. They put so much into their game. We know what Jesus does. He comes back, he twists, he turns. He's a tricky player. They're going to get injuries, those type of players. But yeah, what do you do though? You want to bring in a player that you think is going to replace Jesus, but then you're going to be paying easily up to 100 million for that player. And who's there?
And that's the thing. You got to find them.
You've got to find them.
I think if we could find them, I think we'd do it. But you've got to find them.
I would rather than go with the final guy then, who's 45 million at least.
Yeah, and
I'd rather take that risk than spill out for, like you said, Tony.
I mean, let's be fair. You're looking for someone like Julian Alvarez, aren't you? That's what you're trying to. That's what you're trying to find. Is someone like
which I remember like when City signed him, we said that was a good deal.
Yes,
I said that. I think you said it.
Yeah,
because he got it from River Plate, didn't he?
Yeah.
He said we should be looking for that type of deal because he was like 15 million, I think they paid.
Yeah. I mean, we had the links to Vitor Roque. It looks like he's going to Barcelona. We had the links there, and I think that's kind of what that's kind of what we should be looking for, to try and ease them in slowly for when Jesus is out, and then hopefully they can take over, because the finished article just isn't out there. And if it is, you're gonna have every major club in the world looking at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not, and there's only so many of them players to go around.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and this is going to be unpopular take, but I think had we signed Harry Kane, for example, in the summer, I think we'd win the league.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. Unfortunately, I don't think it would ever have happened, though.
No, of course not. And I'm not saying I want it to happen. I just think we would have won the title if we bought someone like Harry Kane, someone on that level. Yeah. But there's not many people on that level around, so finding them is almost impossible. And I don't think that's going to happen in January. Do you think there's a chance that maybe we look for a wide player? I mean,
but again, we had that debate.
Fair play to Man City, by the way, for digging up Doku, because I mean, I'd heard his name, but I didn't really know too much about him. But what a signing he's turned out to be.
Yeah,
and we could. Yeah. I do think we would benefit from someone like that.
Yeah, but and I think Diaby as well for Villa. He's been excellent for Villa, and I think we were touted to get him.
Yeah, we were linked with him.
They actually didn't play as much as I thought, because we were touted to be into him for a lot more money than that. But it's a problem though, isn't it, Gav? We talked about this.
When do they get games?
Yeah, when do they get games? And if you're trying to look for someone to replace Saka, you're talking about a $200 million pound player.
Yeah, you can't be looking at that. It's got to be someone that can come in, play both sides, and give you something a little bit different. You know, that's kind of what you're.
I like Neto. I really like Neto for Wolves. I think he's productive.
Now he's got that injury history, and I think, we've got to try and steer clear of those injury-prone players, because we've tried this in the past and it hasn't worked.
Yeah, and it's the way he plays. He's so quick on the ball. He's nimble. He's going to be susceptible to ACL and hamstring injuries, and that's exactly the last injury he had was a hamstring one. So, but I mean, that's the type of player I would love to see at Arsenal, barring the injury, of course, because he's only 21. He's someone that can really inject some dynamism. He's kind of similar to Martinelli, but on the other side. Yeah. Very direct player, very good productivity, scores, assists. I'd like someone like that, but I agree with you. I think the injury record, but would the injury record be a major problem? Because I don't know if he'd be a regular player anyway. So,
yeah, I mean,
he's 21.
I mean, we've already got someone like that, right? In Reece, but Arteta doesn't seem to want to play Reece very much.
Yeah, which again speaks to the fact that questions why you get him on a contract.
Crazy considering you don't want to play him, and crazy for him to sign it. At the back, do you see anything happening at the back? I mean, I personally still think we're a centre half short. I don't know whether we buy one, and I think if the reports about Timber are true, then I think we can get away without going for someone in January. As it stands right now, I do feel like we're one short.
Maybe, but then you've got Kivior and you've theoretically got Tomiyasu, haven't you?
Yeah, but Tomiyasu's also filling in at fullback as well, and
yeah,
I think if Timber's back, then I think we're fine. Without Timber, I just feel like we're one short.
Yeah, but I don't. I think it looks like he will be back close to that January period, or at least be starting training. Maybe not, playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to take a month, right, from when he
Yeah.
starts training fully again. So if he's training in the middle of January, you're looking at the middle of February, and in that case, no, and you're not going to replace him. We've just spent all that money on him, and the plan is obviously to play him. He's a young lad. It's an injury that he's going to come back from. So you don't go and replace Timber. My thoughts would be more a right-sided centre back rather than another fullback.
Yeah, perhaps. I maybe a youth player or someone who's could be a player that's up and coming. But I think again, you're talking a lot of money for an established one.
Yeah,
and I don't know how much we would use them. What I did like to see though is obviously you think about Kivior hasn't been used that much, so. I mean, if he was used a lot more, then maybe you'd be a bit more worried because if he gets an injury and stuff. But what I did like to see about Kivior was Arteta surprised me in that game against Sheffield United when he started him.
Yeah.
So I think he seems to be, maybe he's looking into our options to give rest to the Gabriels of this world or the Salivas of this world.
Well, and to give games to the fringe players, right? Because they need to play. At some point, we may need them and they need to play.
Yeah, and we need our starting centre-backs. I mean, if you want to see any evidence of how much we need our starting centre-backs, you just watch the last month of how we played defensively. And those two are just absolutely imperative. So keeping them fit, but yet having someone...
That's why going out of the League Cup was so disappointing for me. I mean, not just because it was West Ham, but because it gives a chance for these fringe players to play. And I understand it's hard when you're just coming into a team with a load of players that you don't normally play with. It's not like you're coming into the first 11 and just replacing one player. But I was disappointed with how that went, especially considering the players, this was their chance to get some more game time.
And also, I think you said it, the games like Sheffield United, when you got Raw Waters there and then you have, I've forgotten the other youth player in there. I mean, is there any harm in not playing them when you're falling up?
It's the not bringing them on. That's the bit for me. Like you're putting Koji Dubry or Sago Jr. or whoever you're putting on the bench, and then with 20 minutes to go and you're 4-0 up, why not bring them on?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit weird. I mean, that's one thing that Wenger was really good at. He would try and incorporate a young player, in the latter stages of the game when we've clearly won it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that gets a crowd going than seeing a player through the youth ranks. And so I don't know why he doesn't do that since we don't have the League Cup. I mean, I really would like him to do a Wenger if we qualify for the next round top in the next game. In the last game, what have you got to lose?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even have the first team travelling.
I'd have a full youth team in there.
Yeah.
Yes, it will piss off the teams challenging for second, but that's not our problem.
No, that's not our problem. That's why you earn first. I mean, I'd have Fabio Vieira going over there. I'd have Kivior going over there. I'd have El Neni. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd have them.
Raw Waters, I'd have him out there.
Raw Waters, Koji Dubry, Sago Jr., Wanyeri, Lewis Skelly. I want to see them players given a chance.
I got a question for you. If the rumours are true that Chelsea are in for Ramsdale and they come in with a 60 million bid in January, do you think Arsenal should take that in January?
That is tough. Probably not in January, just in case. In the summer, first off, I don't want to see Aaron Ramsdale playing for Chelsea. Right? No. Let me be clear on that. I do not want to see him playing with Chelsea. But I think it's pretty clear that he's not got a future at ours. Mm-hmm. I don't see any way that he's got a future at ours. So I think he is going to go. I think that means that the likely destination probably is Chelsea. Mm-hmm. Because you've got to have someone with the money to buy him and someone that needs a goalkeeper. And I really don't see many options outside of Chelsea. Do you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Man United just spend it on that dummy that they've got.
You
Who
obviously
else
ain't
is there?
going Spurs anyway.
City
Liverpool
have
have got Alisson. City have got Ederson.
and they've got a good replacement for Edison as well.
Saint-Germain have got Donnarumma.
Donnarumma,
Barcelona
yeah.
have got Ter Stegen. I mean, the other option, I guess, is Bayern Munich.
Or Real Madrid. Real Madrid had that.
Oh yeah, Courtois.
Dodo from
But Courtois is
Chelsea.
going to be. Courtois.
Courtois. Yeah, he's injured.
He's injured, but he'll be back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess Bayern Munich is the only other place, right? Because
who were in for Raya.
For Raya, yeah. So I guess that's the only other place. I mean, I still would prefer him playing for us, but that's, you have to accept that that's not going to happen. He's got to move on. But to answer the question, I think January. No, I don't think I would do it in January. I think I would do the deal in January and let it go through in the summer. But I don't think I would do the deal in January. No.
Well, what's interesting is that Ramsdale will play the next game because it's Brentford.
Yes,
Raya,
he has to play. Yeah,
Raya can't play, so it'll be interesting to see how he. I don't know if he's. I don't think it makes a difference, but it would be interesting to see how his mental state is. Because obviously his League Cup performance wasn't that great, and I don't blame the guy. I think it's tough when you've just lost your place and. You probably
it's tough when you also know you've got no chance of winning it back, right? Like I think we all know the statements that Arteta made were patently false.
Yeah.
So I think it's tough when he knows he's not really got a chance of winning his place back. It is not really a competition.
No, I agree. Although it'd be just nice to see him between the sticks, and hopefully he can put in a good performance.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, the worst case,
like I was saying, hopefully he does go Bayern Munich. I mean, I'd like it if he went Bayern Munich because I don't want to see him playing for Chelsea. No.
I think that's what we'd probably want to push for if we were to sell him in summer, is to have him playing for a foreign club for sure. If you can get 60 million for him, it's an absolute...
we have to take that. Like if you can really get that for him, we have to take it. It doesn't matter where it comes from. If it's Chelsea, it's Chelsea. If it's Newcastle, it's Newcastle. It doesn't matter. If you can get that money for him, we have to take that money for him. I just, personally, I wouldn't want to see it. And I just think in January, I wouldn't do the deal in January. I would do it in June.
No. I know there's a question over England. And I found it absolutely ridiculous to Southgate to even suggest that he should be playing more games when he's got players that one plays in a Farmers League in Saudi Arabia and another one only recently started playing for Man United, but will go back on the bench again and make that seem as if that's not important. But that's the only thing I think that might push Ramsdale maybe to have some urgency on it because of England.
Yeah,
but he's not number one anyway for England, so I don't see that changing.
No, and he wouldn't. The thing is, he wouldn't be number one if he was playing every week. We know because we saw it last year. So, but Southgate is going after next year, so that will come into
that's probably where summer will be interesting. I think summer is gone if he's not number one.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, mate. All right. Well, thanks. Nice chat tonight.
Likewise.
Back towards the end of the week, go through some stuff. Maybe look at some of the international games that have been played. Are there any games this week, or are the games all Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Monday,
I have no fucking idea, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
The only game I'm actually looking forward to watching, and I will watch, is Brazil-Argentina. But besides that, it's all a load of shit.
Yeah, I won't see a single second of international football. I wouldn't think. I might see some clips pop up on Twitter.
So we'll have nothing to talk about when it comes to
not really. No, we'll make something up. We'll make something. All right, mate. Well, thanks a lot, and I will speak to you later on. Goodbye.
Cheers, mate. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.